Okay. Okay, good evening, everyone. So when you have a shut, when you answer a question, part of the trick is when the rabbi has to know when do you answer just the question you were asked and not answer that which you weren't asked, or when do you have to answer that which you weren't asked either. So when we look at a question carrying on, the theme last night of Hilchot Chanukah, we get another question which was sent to Eretz Chemda, and it's an interesting question because the answer to the question that was asked takes about one line, but the rest of the tshuva is the question that wasn't asked, and it goes as follows. So here's the question. The question was sent in by a school teacher, Rebbe in a, we don't know, primary school, high school, in a school. Again, this is part of the problem of answering questions on the internet. We're missing some of the information here. We don't know what age the children were. We don't know if they were going to be lighting Hanukkah candles at home when they went back, or if it was a non-religious environment. All these things may affect the tshuva. But the question was as follows. The teacher said the school has a plan for the days of Hanukkah. What they want to do is, at the end of the school day, daven Mincha with the kids. After Mincha, late Mincha, there'll be a Dvar Torah, presumably donuts. They don't mention donuts in the question, but I assume there were donuts to be had. And at the end of that, light the candles with the bracha, and then the kids will go home. And the question is, they're going to light the candles, then everyone's going to go home. It's a fire hazard if you leave the candles up in the school. So can they extinguish the candles once they've lit them with the bracha, right before the requisite amount of time, and then everybody go home? That's the question that was asked. I see some people shaking their heads. The question that should have been asked, which wasn't asked, was who says that you can light the candles in the first place? Who says that you can light the candles with the bracha in the school? Maybe yes, maybe no. So why is it different in a shul? So that's exactly what we have to talk about. Good point. You know where to start. Huh?
This is what we do here.
This is what we do here, but this is a shul. This is not a school. Right. Okay. So that's the question. So the question was again. So let's first look at the question that was asked, which was answered, and then we'll look at the question that wasn't asked. We'll try and answer. So question number one was again, what happened? They daven mincha, they lit the candles, and then they want to go home. So they want to put the candles out. So people have mentioned already the question of lighting the candles in the shul, and whether you can extinguish the candles when everybody goes home. Discussion in the Rishonim in terms of how long the candles have to be lit in the shul. Do they have to be lit just while everybody's there? Do they have to be lit for half an hour? Do they have to be lit for longer? Mishnah Berurah says, lekatchila, ideally, if it's possible, there's a way. People are going to be there. It's not right, then you keep the candles lit for half an hour. But certainly there's other factors. It's going to be a fire hazard. Then Poskim would agree. You can extinguish the candles, right, in the shul before you go home. That's in terms of that. So the answer to the question was, you can blow out the candles, that's fine. We don't want to leave a fire hazard in the school. But the more primary, the more basic question is, can you light the candles there, right? We know we have this tension in terms of Hanukkah candles. The mitzvah is, we mentioned yesterday, ner ishu beitu. Everybody agrees there is a mitzvah to light Hanukkah candles at home, inside your home, outside your home, and the petach, wherever it is, but you light candles in the house. On the other hand, we know that there's a concept of one of the fundamental concepts of the mitzvah of Hanukkah is Pisumei Nisa, publicizing the miracle. So you have this question, it comes up over here, and it comes up in many different circumstances. Right? Any time that there's a gathering, a public event over Hanukkah, I've had this, I've been at weddings over Hanukkah where they lit the candles with the bracha. You have this at different offices might have a Hanukkah party and they want somebody in the office to come and light the and light the candle. I remember when I was in the army, the base where I was at a base in Ramat Gan, and one of the afternoons where people would come in, go home at night. One of the afternoons there was a Hanukkah party. They wanted somebody to light the candles in the office with a bracha. And other public gatherings, the school. Would there be what is the then? Should we be lighting candles there with a bracha? You want to light candles without a bracha, you can do that wherever you want. There's no issue with that. The question is whether it's actually a fulfillment of the mitzvah. So many people have already pointed out, and you said, right, we already know, we have a precedent for this, we light candles in shul. And the truth is, the only place where we find in halakha, going back to the Rishonim, where we find that aside from in one's home, where you would light candles with a bracha, is in the shul. But this minhag, the Rishonim are a little bit puzzled by it. Rishonim, the Achronim, because where does this begin, and why do we light candles in the shul? Right, the shul is not one's home. We said now Ishu Beito, but we don't find anywhere in the Gemara the custom of lighting candles in the shul does not appear. The Rif doesn't mention it. The Rambam doesn't mention it. All of a sudden, later on, it comes. By the time we get to the Beit Yosef, by the time we get to the Shulchan Aruch, it's already brought down. This is the minhag. We light candles in the shul with the bracha. But why do we do that? Well, where does it come from? So there are a number of different reasons that are given. Based on what the reason is, we'll see if it applies to other settings as well, and what we should do. So the Beit Yosef, when he brings this, first of all, he brings the kolbo. And the kolbo says that the reason you light candles in the shul is very similar, perhaps, to the reason why we don't do it here, but in Chutz La'aretz, it's still a minhag in many places, where you make kiddush on Friday night in shul. Why is that? Because the Gemara tells us that the shul at one point was a place where people would come. Guests, visitors from out of town would come, maybe not in the shul itself, but in an adjacent room. They would sleep there, they would eat there, they would have their meals there, right? And all the poskim ask, how can you make, like I say, in Eretz Yisrael, we don't really do this, but there's still the minhag in Chutz La'aretz Friday night. The Chazan makes kiddush. We know kiddush has to be with makom soda. You don't just make kiddush where you won't be eating. So originally the minhag was that the Gemara Pesachim discusses that the shul was the place for some people, was their makom soda. That's why you make kiddush there. Everybody else who's not eating there goes home and makes kiddush again. But it is in fact, and so those places that still have that minhag continue that minhag, even though nobody's eating there nowadays. But that is where it comes from.
Let a kid do it.
Huh?
Usually let a child do it.
Right. So there's discussion halakha nowadays. If you do it, who drinks the wine? Who drinks the grape juice? Should it be the chazan? Should it be a kid? There are those who say, by the way, you should let a kid do it. Let's point out. There are others who say it's better that the chazan should drink, and better that he should drink more than a revit. Why? Because there's a shita. There's an opinion in halakha what is considered makom soda. So we generally paskin that either you have to have bread or you have to have at least mezonot. There's an opinion that a revit of wine would be considered makom soda. So we don't rely on that lekatchila. But it could be the chazan is drinking the wine from kiddush. If he drinks that, then at least he's fulfilled that obligation of makom soda, and that's okay. That's a discussion. But so there is a possibility. There was that reality that existed whereby people were sleeping there. So the people that are there in the shul for that night, that's their home, and that's why they would have the Hanukkah candles to fulfill their mitzvah. Now clearly this is not going to apply in other settings. It's not going to apply today either. But again, we're looking at the roots of the minhag. Once the minhag became established, so then we continue and we continue with it as the Shulchan Aruch. So that's one explanation he brings in the name of the Kolbo. Another one of the Rishonim, the Rivash, has another fascinating explanation where this comes from. He says, you remember what we said yesterday? Yesterday we spoke about the shamash. And we said that the shamash, we don't find it when we're lighting candles outside, because it's obvious when you're lighting candles outside what it's for. But when the candles came inside, all of a sudden we have the shamash, so that people aren't going to get confused, be recognizable. These are Hanukkah candles. These are not just light that you have on your table. So in a similar way, the Rivash says the following. He says again, we have Pirsumei Nisa. We have to publicize the miracle. How do we publicize the miracle? When we light Hanukkah candles at our home, we light them outside. We light them outside, or we light them through the window where people can see. As we said yesterday, the Gemara tells us there was a stage in history where there was a shata sakana. It was a danger to light the candles outside. But we could no longer publicize the miracle in that way, so we still connected to the home, so we bring the candles inside. But once you're lighting the candles inside and there is no Pirsumei Nisa, where can you have the Pirsumei Nisa? Where do people get together and everyone's going to see it? That's in the shul. That's in the Beit Knesset. So says the Rivash, essentially, once we've moved the candles inside and we lost that element of Pirsumei Nisa, the candles you light at home, we can regain that element of Pirsumei Nisa with the candles that we light in shul. And again, once the minhag becomes established, it's established. He discusses how it is that we can do it with a bracha. He says it's not something we have to be overly concerned about. Meaning there are a number of instances in halakha where we say brachot over minhagim, without getting into it now. But such a concept exists, and therefore that would be that. Now if that's the reasoning, that's where it comes from. You can hear already this may apply to other settings. If it's just about Pirsumei Nisa, so we have Pirsumei Nisa in the shul, we might have Pirsumei Nisa somewhere else. Come back to that in a moment. And then there's a third reason, there's others, but the third main reason which is given is that the shul is similar to, the shul is a mikdash me'at, similar to the Beit HaMikdash. Yesterday we mentioned as well, other halachot of Chanukah learned out from the menorah in the mikdash, and therefore a shul is a special setting, has the similarity to the mikdash, and therefore we would light candles there as well. Now clearly that reasoning would not apply to any other setting. Okay, so based on, these are the different reasons we have. The one which would be relevant and which would raise the question for other places is if we're lighting for the sake of Pisum Nisa, would we light somewhere else as well? So the poskim discuss, in modern day poskim are all asked the question, you have a public Chanukah, a public gathering on Chanukah, would you light candles with the bracha for the sake of Pisum Nisa, just as you would in the shul? So I think it's safe to say the majority of the poskim say no. They say the shul is unique based on all these different things we've said. The Mincha Yitzchak writes, he says, all the Rishonim and all the poskim are puzzled where this minhag came from that we started lighting in the shul. Right? And different reasons were given. One of the Rishonim, in fact, the Shibbolei Aleket, he says, Lo matzati sholesh v'anaf laminhag hazeh. He says, I can't find a root for it anywhere. Don't know where it came from. He'd prefer to cancel it. But as we say, it's now become established. But he says, okay, so we have the chidush of the minhag that was established. That's enough. When you're now going to start adding to it, you're now going to start creating new minhagim, you're going to start doing new things. That's the Mincha Yitzchak. That's what he says. But again, many other poskim of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Tzitz Eliezer, Rav Wosner, poskim say we have this minhag of lighting in the shul, but it's only in the shul. It doesn't apply anywhere else. There are others who say famously the minhag Chabad. Any place where you're going to go and it's going to be Pesumei Nisa, they would say, yeah, you would go and you would light with the bracha. That is, so there is such an opinion that exists. There is also maybe a middle opinion. This is brought, Rav Ovadia writes this, Mordechai Eliyahu and others as well. And again, I'm not sure if it's written as a lekatchila, this should be the halacha, or this is more of a limud zchut for places that do it. But what they write is that any place where you have a fixed minyan, so you're going where you're going to go and daven, you're going to daven Maariv, that in a sense turns that place into a shul, and therefore just like you would light in a shul, you could argue, you could say that this setting now becomes like the shul, and it becomes a place where we have a tzibur, and therefore we have Pesumei Nisa, and we could light with a bracha. What's the logic behind it? The logic behind it might be the following: that when we light in the shul, we say that's where the tzibur comes together. That's where the tzibur gathers, and therefore we have Pesumei Nisa. How do you define a tzibur? What is it? A bunch of people standing around. If you have a bunch of people standing together at a bus stop, you just happen to have lots of people standing at a bus stop. They're not a tzibur. There's nothing that joins them together. So the fact they're waiting for a bus. But if you have people that are, once they come together to daven, so maybe that changes it. Maybe the fact of, certainly if it's a fixed minyan, if it's just a place where people have gathered together for whatever reason and they're davening in order that they can light the candles, that's a little bit more tenuous. But according to Rav Ovadia, that may still. So going back to our school, so we might say like this: if the case is really that they daven every day in the classroom, you may say that has the status of a shul, so to speak, and there may be room to light the candles, particularly if it's for chinuch, particularly if, as we said, it might be the situation where these children aren't lighting Chanukah candles at home. The teacher wants to give them the opportunity to see and to fulfill the mitzvah. There's another one of the Rishonim, Orchot Chaim, who says, maybe the same author as the Kolbo, but the Orchot Chaim writes that one of the reasons why we light in shul is lotzi ele sheinam bekiyam, meaning those who don't know how to light the candles, to show them what it is and to give them the opportunity to see the candles being lit and the brachot being said. And that rationale may very well apply to the setting. The problem is that the Shulchan Aruch writes, when do we light the candles in shul? We light them between Mincha and Maariv. And why is it between Mincha and Maariv? Because then you're still going to have, however long we leave the candles burning for, you're still going to have Maariv, and people are still going to be there and are still going to see the candles. So you have that element of Pesumei Nisa. If they're just davening Mincha, they're not davening Maariv, and then you're going to light the candles, and then they're all going to go home immediately as soon as you've lit. So there's no Pesumei Nisa because nobody's seeing them, because it's all, you're going home and the candles have been blown out. So it might be a suggestion, might be that let them daven Mincha, and if it works out with the timing, to light the candles first, and then say the Dvar Torah, so that and eat the donuts, so that there's a little bit of time that the kids are still there, and we'll see it. It could be that if the children are under the age of bar mitzvah anyway, so then let them light and say the bracha. Could be for chinuch or other things that are suggested. but that's the answer in terms of that. Yeah.
Let's say in the morning,
Yeah.
The Maariv Shiur. Do you light the candles?
So there is a minhag that the candles are lit in the morning and they're lit during Shachrit. So it's based on the way it was with the Menorah and the Beit HaMikdash. But you wouldn't say a bracha. There wouldn't be a case where you'd say the bracha in the morning. Okay. Rabbi Kenigsberg Mincha Maariv Shiur